So there's more good news in the election front as the whole world trembles to see what happens in the American election in this year. But America is not the only place in the world. There's a whole wide world outside of America, actually. Fun fact. Um, anyway, Iran just had an election. Um, this is from the BBC. What to expect from Iran's new president? Iran's president-elect, Masoud Pezeshkian, stood as a wildcard candidate and defied expectations to win the presidency against hardline rival Saeed Jalili. Mr. Pezeshkian is notable because he is a reformist, but not the liberal-minded, democracy-loving kind of reformist in the universal sense. In Iran, the reformists are one ideological faction of the Islamic Republic's ruling elite. They are Islamists, like their conservative rivals, but believe a more moderate version of the regime's ideology could better serve both the ruling clergy and Iranian society. Reformists led the administration from 1997 to 2005 and were part of a de facto coalition when Hassan Rouhani, a conservative who became a centrist, was president from 2003 to 2021. They have often called for freer and more democratic society. But in the 2024 election, unlike the previous reformist administration in the late 1990s, promises for a freer and more democratic society were not part of their campaign. Since the 1990s, Iran has experienced multiple waves of dissent and oppression. Even reformists themselves have faced severe political crackdowns, with many high-profile figures spending time in jail over the last 2 decades. Though members of the establishment, it is widely acknowledged that they lack influence over crucial centers of power, such as the Supreme Leader's Office, the Guardian Council, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and the Supreme National Security Council. When hardline former President Ebrahim Raisi was killed in a helicopter crash in May, and in Mr. Pezeshkian's prepared his presidential campaign, he chose a strategy very similar to Hassan Rouhani's in 2013. Focusing on the economic hardships the country has been facing for years due to Western sanctions and blaming the conservative rivals for causing the situation with their radical anti-West stances. As part of this campaign, Mr. Pezeshkian recruited Mohammad Javad Zarif, the country's former foreign minister, who helped strike the nuclear deal in 2015. Although Mr. Zarif is not a reformist per se, he campaigned heavily for Mr. Pezeshkian. In his manifesto, Mr. Pezeshkian declared that his foreign policy would be not anti-West nor anti-East. He criticized former President Raisi's policies of moving the country closer to Russia and China, and insisted that the only way to resolve the economic crisis is through negotiation with the West to end a nuclear standoff and ease the sanctions. However, during the campaign, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei criticized these ideas. Mr. Khamenei called those who believed in achieving prosperity through friendlier relations with the U.S. deluded, pointing to the fact that it was the U.S., not Iran, that drew from the nuclear deal. Okay, so, I will admit, I'm not, the most highly educated person on foreign issues, on foreign politics, but I'm doing my best to become more educated and abreast to the goings on there, because politics isn't just, national. Politics is international. Now, strategically, it might make sense to focus on national stuff, but there's, politics affects everyone, everywhere. Now, and even though this piece did sort of have the aside that Mr. Pezeshkian, I'm sorry for these name pronunciations, wasn't quite campaigning on the same reformist ideas as that people like him had before. This does, I would think, seem to be a good sign, though. A sign that perhaps Iran is liberalizing a bit over time. Iran's not the worst country in the Middle East by far. Compared to Saudi Arabia, I think Noam Chomsky said Iran was a civil rights paradise. So, It's not the worst by far, but it's not great either. Um, and there's still a lot of oppression there. A lot of women's groups are um, fighting for greater civil rights there, and many of them are attacked, jailed, etc. Um, but like I said, I think this election is a good sign, um, and it sort of points to something I've said before, I think, which is reform generally comes from within. Um, you know, if you want to change a country, you got to get the people in that country to change it themselves, right? You can't, a foreign country can't come in and say, okay, you're going to do this now because this is how that works. I mean, you can, but like it's more than likely not going to work out the way you want it to, because then then it becomes an anti-colonial struggle, instead of people deciding on their own that they want change to happen. And there's many people in Iran that do want change to happen. Um, so, and there's nothing wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong at all with an Iranian president that wants to decrease tensions with the U.S. Um, I mean, but yeah, it was us who left the nuclear deal, and we've provoked Iran multiple times. So I mean, they don't have to be nice. Obviously, they don't have to play nice. They don't have to aim for reconciliation. They can be hard liners about it if they want to. I mean, it's understandable, is what I'm saying. But I mean, in terms of just world peace, in terms of just geopolitical stability, I mean, there's nothing wrong, absolutely, with an Iranian president wanting to soften relations with the U.S. Um, I would say both pulling out of the nuclear deal and bombing and assassinating an Iranian citizen are two things the U.S. has done which have greatly increased our chances of nuclear annihilation. And this new Iranian president seems to want to aim off and away from that and to more peaceful and amicable relations. And I say that's wonderful. I think that's hopefully a sign of actual change in Iran. It'd be nice if the whole world just ran democratically. But these things take time. So, like I said, good news in the election front from Iran.